Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, we step into an age long before the fall of giants, before Goliath's shadow loomed large, into the early, untold days of David. This is the story of the shepherd boy who walked with courage long before the world ever knew his name. If you enjoy epic tales, ancient mysteries, and legendary journeys, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a chapter. Now, let's begin. David, the days before the giant. Long before the valley of Elah echoed with the roar of a giant, David's world was made of sunlit hills, restless sheep, and the quiet conversations he held with God beneath a canopy of stars. A shepherd in the margins. David was the youngest of 8 sons, smallest in stature, last in the line, and often forgotten in the bustle of Jesse's house. While his brothers learned the rhythm of battle and the politics of grown men, David learned the rhythms of wind on grass, the bleating of lambs, and the subtle crack of a twig that meant a predator hid nearby. Though the world may have seen boredom in shepherding, David grew in ways no one noticed. His hands strengthened, pulling lambs from brambles. His legs toughened, climbing rocky hillsides. His hearing sharpened, listening for the faintest cry. His courage hardened as he stood between helpless creatures and jaws lined with teeth. When a lion once dragged a lamb away in its jaws, David chased it, not from bravado, but because someone had to. When a bear lumbered too close to the flock, David met it with nothing but a staff, sling, and an unshakable certainty that he was not alone. David's other weapon was a harp. Under the stars, he sang, not for crowds, not for glory, but out of a heart learning to trust the unseen. His songs were raw, honest, filled with a young man's hopes and fears. The hills became his audience, the God of Israel, his close companion. Sometimes when he sang, the sheep quieted and the night stilled. Even the stars seemed to lean in. One afternoon, while David watched the flock, a runner arrived, breathless, summoning him home. He came smelling of fields and wool, only to find his brothers standing stiffly in a line while the prophet Samuel examined each one with troubled eyes. When Samuel's gaze fell on David, something ancient and powerful stirred. "This is the one," the prophet murmured. Oil ran down David's hair and onto his tunic. The Spirit of the Lord rushed upon him like a sudden wind. And then, life went on. David returned to the pasture, to sheep, to hills, to loneliness. His family still saw a boy. His brothers still teased. He still mended fences, chased strays, practiced his sling, and wrote songs no one else heard. But something inside him knew he was being shaped for more. Word of David's music traveled farther than he ever had. When King Saul's spirit grew troubled, his servants suggested a musician, someone skilled, soothing, steady. They brought David to the palace. He played for the king, fingers moving gently over the strings, the same way he calmed frightened lambs at night. Saul found comfort, though he did not know why. David came and went from the court, serving when needed, returning to the pastures between summonses. He stood on the edge of a world of power and conflict, yet remained anchored to the quiet fields that had shaped him. While nations maneuvered, while kings brooded, While giants sharpened their spears far from Israel's borders, David continued to grow. He learned humility by being overlooked. He learned courage by facing beasts with his bare hands. He learned faith by whispering prayers into the dark. He learned leadership by guiding creatures who could not guide themselves. He learned worship by singing truth until it became the marrow of his bones. Before he ever stepped into a battlefield, David had already fought 100 battles no one saw, and he had won. When his father later asked him to carry bread and cheese to the front lines, an errand hardly worthy of a future king, he obeyed without complaint. He did not know it was the last ordinary morning of his life. Ahead waited a valley, a champion, and a moment that would echo through history. But that is another story. Thank you for watching this chapter of the journey. If you enjoyed this story and want more epic biblical tales, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. A new legend begins in every episode.